Welcome back. Once again, it's the first day of spring. We are celebrating with Dr. Eli Karam. He is with the Kentucky Association of Marriage and Family Therapists. If you have a question, any issue you may be facing, we'll talk a little bit about some issues that may be entering your family. Hopefully not. If so, let's get in front of those. Dr. Karam, what issues, we've handled many on this show.
We have.
But your practice in general, what do you see a lot of? Do you see a lot of maybe alcohol, drug abuse problems?
Yep.
Marital problems, of course, very common.
Right. Marriage and family therapists, as we talked about many times, are going to work with the person in all of their interpersonal context, meaning you don't have to be in a relationship or come with your family. However, many people do. But it could be anything affecting your relational health. So you're having trouble with a relationship, or you have a family member that's going through something. John mentioned maybe addiction or some type of substance abuse problem, or you're just navigating these normal hurdles in the family life cycle, as it happens all the time. So marriage and family therapists see people through strength and health. That's what we try to do each and every week on the show, and take your calls and your emails. So let's do it. Let's do it.
Let's open them up. First of all, let's start with an email. And by the way, if you're looking for a therapist, perhaps you say, you know, I do want to see a therapist, but I want to do it in private. Therapistlocator.net. Therapistlocator.net. Or you can go to the other website as well.
Yeah,
right?
You can go, there's therapistlocator.net on the screen, and you click on that little red rectangle, locate a therapist. You put in your zip code, and then you will get a list of therapists with their profile. 400 marriage and family therapists licensed in the state of Kentucky, many of them centrally located in Wave Country. You find the person you want to work with and call, and any marriage and family therapist should be able to talk to you 5 or 10 minutes, and you can go from there. You can also go to our website, www.kamft.org, and that will have not only links to all of our past segments for the past year on the show, but it'll also have lots of good news for you out there, the viewer.
You know, I had one of our viewers who was watching talked about you, and they said you were the Fraser Crane of Louisville.
Okay.
You're on another level, though. Not radio, you're on television.
He had a good run, Fraser Crane. Yeah.
All right, here we go, Fraser. We are listening as we
All
speak. To Dr. Eli, I have a parent suffering from early onset dementia. My friend just recommended a book to me about ambiguous loss. Does that term fit my situation? And how could a therapist from the KAMFT help me and my family with this? Ambiguous loss, interesting term. Doc, you want to handle this one? Yes.
Sure. That's a great question, Dora. And your friend is probably talking about Dr. Pauline Boss. She kind of coined this term over 30 years ago. So ambiguous loss refers to when someone is physically present, but not psychologically there. Normally through dementia or some type of traumatic brain injury. So your loved one, sometimes your partner, sometimes your parent in this case for Dora, is not fully there. So you have really gone through many of these stages of grief that we associate with physical death, someone leaving us, but with the person's body still there. So you go through, anger, confusion, denial, and also grief. And many people, when there is ambiguous loss, they are so busy taking care of the loved one that they don't take time to grieve. So yes, that book could certainly help, but a marriage and family therapist is going to be able to work with you, and in this case, Dora, if you have a parent, maybe your spouse or your other adult siblings, to kind of put a plan together, not only to take care of that parent with dementia, but also to go through these stages of grief. And many people delay this, and then when their parent physically dies, they are hit with as normally one would be, but almost a double whammy of all this kind of grief that they have suppressed and pushed down. So ambiguous loss, it happens also. You could also see it referred to when somebody is missing, and they've been missing a long time, so they have not been buried, but they are not present, but you still have to deal with all of the emotions. So marriage and family therapists are going to help you, whether it's you alone or you and your loved ones, help you deal with ambiguous loss. Thank you.
You know, I remember, I think it was Nancy Reagan when her husband was going through dementia, and I think he had Alzheimer's. And she said it was the long goodbye. And I think the caretaker worries so much about the person in their family, and they worry very little about themselves. And like you said, help them with that. That's a tough situation.
It is.
All right, I've got a caller on. Great. Welcome to the show. Sherry, good afternoon to you, and welcome to the first day of spring. How are you, Sherry?
Hi, fine.
Hey, Sherry. What's your question?
My question is that I hope I'm wording it correctly. My mom is having some problems since her husband died, and I think she has Alzheimer's or dementia. And she's having some financial problems, and she needs to take care of her house. But she resists any suggestions that I make. And I don't know how to get her to find out about the dementia or at least make decisions. She won't make any decisions at all.
Yeah,
None.
yeah, I appreciate that. That's actually a nice follow-up call to our email. So, Sherry, do you have other siblings, or are you the only kind of support for your mom after the passing of your father?
I actually have another sibling, but I think that she is part of the problem.
Okay. In what way? Can I ask real quick? In what way is she part of the problem?
Well, she's been financially dependent on my mom for the past 30 years.
Right. So she's invested in the current arrangement, right? So what I would do is, it's very difficult when you lose a longtime spouse. Many of, again, these stages of grief, they can be, again, extreme sadness, extreme confusion, especially if you've relied on your spouse to function in a certain role, and then you're a grown adult, but you don't know how to do some of these basic things because you have relied on your partner for so many years to do those things. So many of those things mimic confusion, memory loss. However, the best thing to do is obviously you want to get your mom checked out, and you want to suggest that she go and see a neurologist or go to her general doctor and get a screen. And if she resists that, we have these natural consequences. When people cannot maintain and there is an accident or they can't pay a bill, sometimes the natural consequences necessitate these other forms of intervention. But I would try to pull together with your network of people that care about your mom, let her know that you're not trying to do any harm, that you want to help her, and that you understand it's confusing after the loss of your father, and you also are going to need help from that sibling. And even if that sibling has benefited financially, the sibling is going to feel the pain too when there's no more money to go around, as you're saying is happening. So a marriage and family therapist, if you would consult them either individually, if you can't get your mom in initially, would help you put a plan together, and would also be skilled in reaching out to your mom and your sister or brother to help set that up and put a plan together. And also would work collaboratively with a primary care physician who, obviously your mom probably definitely needs to see one of those as well. So I hope that's helped, and thank you for your call. I appreciate it.
Interesting. Doctor, how often, when you have an issue like that, family that involves maybe parents or kids, how often is it that you're seeing more than one person, that they come in as a group? Do you usually get one person who is reluctant? I know that happens in marriage, with the marriage family therapist.
We call them, in family therapy in general, always somebody is the customer, John, right? So they're making the call. And the skill separates marriage and family therapy from other health disciplines. Again, we think systemically in this relational way. So we expand the system. So even if you start individually, a marriage and family therapist, licensed marriage and family therapist, an LMFT is going to be able to reach out and get what we call the buy-in and collaborate, even with the most disinterested member of the family. Because it's great when people come in with the same amount of motivation, but often they do not. Often somebody is dragging their feet, especially if they are what we call the identified patient, the person that thinks the problem is going to get detoured to them. So marriage and family therapists, again, see everybody as part of the solution. Everybody has to take accountability for their part, but they will help you kind of reach out to these reluctant family members. A very good question.
And a lot of it is proactive, too. If you're thinking about getting married, if you're getting into a relationship, and you have some red flags, this is a good time to get in front of those so it works out. Dr. Eli's in the house. If you have a question, 571-5263. We have one more segment with him. We'd love to hear from you.
Call in.
Dr. Eli, call. Dr. Fraser Crane is here. We'll be right back on Wave 3 Listen.